Before the murders, a town, a family, and a house already held secrets. This is the story of Fall River, the Bordens, and the mystery that turned a home into legend. Tonight, we open the door. In the next minutes, the Bordens' strained home, the morning of the crime, the investigation that followed, a sensational trial, and why the legend refuses to die. Some houses are remembered for their beauty, others are remembered for what happened inside them. On a quiet street in Fall River, Massachusetts, stands a home that became a symbol of violence, suspicion, and unanswered questions. In 1892, 2 people were found brutally murdered here. And more than a century later, the world still remembers the name Lizzie Borden. The crimes were shocking enough, but the real reason this case never faded is simpler. Nobody has ever fully agreed on what happened inside that house. Was Lizzie Borden a calculating killer, a wrongly accused daughter, or a woman trapped inside a nightmare family dynamic? The answers were never clean, and the uncertainty made the story eternal. To understand the story, you have to understand Fall River. In the late 19th century, it was a crowded industrial city, booming with factories, money, labor, and tension. The Borden family lived there in a world shaped by class, reputation, and strict social expectations. On the surface, they were respectable. Beneath that surface, everything was fraying. Andrew Borden was wealthy, stern, and deeply frugal. His daughters, Emma and Lizzie, lived in the same house well into adulthood. Their stepmother, Abby, was often described as an outsider in the home. The family did not appear warm, and reports from neighbors and acquaintances suggested arguments, resentment, and an atmosphere that felt sealed off from the rest of the world. The house itself became part of the legend. Narrow hallways, multiple floors, and tightly packed rooms gave the home a claustrophobic feel. It was not a grand mansion, but it was large enough for secrecy and close enough for violence to echo through every floor. In homes like this, silence can become ominous very quickly. On the morning of August 4, 1892, the house began like any other. The family moved through ordinary routines, but the normal rhythm of the day was already carrying something terrible inside it. By late morning, 2 people would be dead, and 1 daughter would be at the center of the most famous murder case in American history. Distant street sounds fade into hush. Andrew Borden was found dead on the sitting room sofa, struck with a violent force that left no ambiguity about the brutality of the attack. The house that had seemed merely tense a few hours earlier had become a crime scene. And at first, the most shocking detail was not just that he had been killed, but how close the killer had to be to do it. Then came the second discovery. Abby Borden was found upstairs, also murdered, her death revealing that this was not a single act of violence, but a sequence of deliberate attacks. The house had been turned into a sealed chamber of fear. Anyone inside it that morning became a possible suspect, and suspicion quickly narrowed toward Lizzie. Lizzie's behavior after the murders drew immediate attention. Her answers seemed uncertain. Her timeline shifted. Her demeanor, whether nervous, composed, or simply misunderstood, became part of the public record. In a case built on suspicion, the smallest detail was treated like evidence of guilt. Investigators entered the home and began searching for clues. They looked for bloodstains, hidden clothing, and signs of a weapon. But the house offered no easy confession. Instead, it gave them fragments, contradictions, confusing witness statements, and a crime scene that seemed to have been disturbed by time itself. Attention soon turned to the weapon. The theory of an axe or hatchet became central to the case, but no perfect answer emerged. The evidence was largely circumstantial, and the forensic science of the era could not solve the mystery with modern precision. That left the public to fill the gaps with imagination. Fall River reacted with shock, gossip, and outrage. Newspapers amplified every detail, and the story spread far beyond Massachusetts. What had happened inside one house became a national scandal. The Borden name was now attached to something far larger than a murder investigation. It had become a cultural obsession. As suspicion hardened, Lizzie was questioned repeatedly. Each statement was examined for inconsistency. Every pause, every correction, every unusual detail was treated as meaningful. In cases like this, truth often matters less than the appearance of truth, and Lizzie's image began to fracture under public scrutiny. When the trial began, the nation watched. The courtroom became theater, and the case became a referendum on class, gender, family, and credibility. Lizzie was no longer just a daughter in a troubled household. She was a symbol, and everyone wanted to decide what that symbol meant. The prosecution built its case from motive, opportunity, and suspicion. They argued that family conflict, inheritance concerns, and access to the house pointed toward Lizzie. But the case depended heavily on inference. Without direct proof, the argument had to convince the jury through pressure rather than certainty. The defense responded by turning uncertainty into protection. They challenged the timeline, questioned the reliability of testimony, and framed Lizzie as a respectable woman unfairly trapped in a sensational story. In a court of law, doubt can be more powerful than accusation, and the defense knew it. Witnesses complicated the case further. Some details supported suspicion. Others raised new questions. The courtroom heard testimony about movements, sounds, and behavior that never aligned into a perfect picture. The more people spoke, the less certain the truth seemed to become. The alleged murder weapon became one of the most enduring images in the case, but even that detail remained tangled in uncertainty. Was the weapon ever recovered? Was it hidden, discarded, or never conclusively tied to the crime? The absence of certainty kept the case alive long after the trial ended. Then came the verdict. Lizzie Borden was acquitted. Legally, the case was closed. Publicly, it was anything but. Many believed justice had been served. Others believed the wrong person had been accused. The decision did not end the story. It made the mystery even bigger. After the trial, Lizzie remained in Fall River, but her life was never ordinary again. Her name was permanently attached to the murders, and she lived under the shadow of suspicion and fame. Even when the law moved on, history refused to let her go. The case spread into songs, stories, and folklore. Over time, the details became larger than the facts. The murders were no longer only a legal mystery. They became a cultural memory, repeated so often that the story itself began to feel haunted. Today, the house still stands. It has become a destination for history lovers, true crime followers, and paranormal seekers. What was once a private family home is now a public landmark, preserved not just as a building, but as a vessel of memory. Visitors and staff have reported strange experiences for years. Unexplained sounds, uneasy feelings, shadowy figures, and the sense of being watched all feed the house's reputation. Whether these accounts come from atmosphere, suggestion, or something less explainable, they have become part of the legend. The house now operates as a historic site and lodging destination. Guests can walk the same stairs, enter the same rooms, and sleep inside one of America's most notorious addresses. That experience transforms the story from something you read into something you inhabit. Over time, fact and legend have been layered together so tightly that separating them is difficult. The murders are real. The trial is real. The haunting stories are what came after. And the house exists at the point where history and folklore meet. The story endures because it contains everything people fear: domestic conflict, hidden motives, sudden violence, and the possibility that the truth was never fully revealed. It is a mystery that refuses to settle, and that unresolved tension is exactly why the house remains powerful. The Lizzie Borden house is more than a crime scene. It is a place where a family collapsed, where a city lost its innocence, and where America learned how quickly private tragedy can become public legend. Some houses are remembered for what they were. This one is remembered for what it became. 2 murders, 1 trial, 1 acquittal, and more than a century of unanswered questions. The Lizzie Borden house stands as a reminder that some stories do not end when the court case does. They live on in whispers, in headlines, and in the rooms where the past never fully leaves. If you want more dark documentary stories like this, like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment with the next haunted house or unsolved case you want covered. Each one has a story, and some of them never stop echoing. And if you ever find yourself outside that house after midnight, listen closely. Sometimes the most unsettling part of a legend is how quietly it waits.